Thousands of both lower and higher grades will return to school for the reopening of the 2024 calendar year. And Minister of Justice and Correctional Services Ronald Lamola says he's hopeful that the International Court of Justice will grant an order in favour of South Africa for the provisional measures requested by Pretoria. A very good afternoon. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Thank you very much for tuning in. You're watching The Week Ahead. You can interact with us on social media platforms. It's at Week Ahead, and our hashtag is The Week Ahead. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabalane. Leading our bulletin this hour, it's that time of the year when parents are kitting their children out with new uniforms. And as usual, the focus is turned on escalating school uniform costs. The Competition Commission is now threatening to prosecute schools that aren't complying with the new guidelines for the procurement of school uniforms.
Many parents are doing last-minute shopping for school uniform ahead of schools opening next week. However, many cash-strapped parents are still battling with high prices due to schools forcing them to buy school uniforms from a single supplier. Some parents say that they've had to do their homework to identify school uniform shops that offer reasonable prices, and they say that proper budgeting has helped them to cope with the escalating prices.
During December, you use all the money and buy useless things, whereas you don't think about the uniform. Then come January, you don't have anything.
I budget first. Start from the first year, we must budget something for your kids.
It's a little bit high, but we can't do anything.
We were shopping to other shops whereby we spend a lot, but today we just spend a normal price.
This shop is seeing an influx of parents wanting to buy school uniforms, and they expect this number to increase next week. They manufacture school uniforms but say it's difficult to compete with the Chinese imports when it comes to pricing. The shop owner has welcomed the Competition Commission's guidelines on school uniforms, saying they will help to enhance competition in the sector.
I think that the problem is a lot of schools have monopolized it to certain stockers only. That's where the issue is. They should make it open for all suppliers to supply the school.
The Competition Commission reached an agreement with schools' governing bodies in 2021, compelling schools to refrain from having exclusive deals with suppliers. But some schools are still continuing with this practice. The Commission says it's received about 220 school uniform-related complaints since January 2022, and many come from the Gauteng province.
We have, in terms of our investigation, found that schools have concluded deals that are evergreen from as far as 1970s and 1980s with manufacturers and suppliers on an exclusive basis for the supply of a school uniform. Parents have, due to these evergreen agreements, have to pay high prices for school essential items, and these exclusive agreements between schools and manufacturers are particularly problematic when they are in place for long durations.
The responsibility now lies with various schools to ensure that they utilize the service of more suppliers of school uniforms to eliminate monopoly and enable parents to shop around for the best possible prices. Naledi Matlapeng, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, parents of learners at a high school in Elandskop outside Pietermaritzburg are up in arms after their children were asked not to return this year. They claim their children were denied admission because they've failed some grades twice. They're appealing to the Department of Education to intervene before the school reopens for the 2024 academic year.
A group of parents from Gobindlovu High School in Elandskop outside Pietermaritzburg are uncertain about their children's future. Their children were expelled from school last year after failing grades twice. They were in grade 9, 10 and 11. The learners, according to their parents, are now stranded as no school in the area is willing to accept them. Speaking to the SABC on condition of anonymity, parents explained how this decision has affected their children. He says what the principal is doing is wrong. He's not showing patriotism and he does not have mercy, since their children were learners of his school. They should be allowed back. If they were coming to this school for the first time, it was going to be easy to tell them he doesn't have a space, but now they are repeating in this school. This is taking a toll on their children psychologically. He says, what if some consider suicide because of the stress? Their concern is the well-being of their children who desperately want to go back to school.
My child was doing grade 9. The school has called other children to fetch their stationery and my child is at home worried. They told me that they do not accept a learner who has failed a grade twice. Other nearby schools have also decided that they will not accept our children.
I'm really depressed that my grandchild has been kicked out of Contingency High School because he failed twice. I'm an old lady. I do not have money to take him to other schools outside our area. I am a widow and his mother died. I'm only depending on my pension and child support grant.
The Department of Education says there is no policy that a learner who's failed twice must be expelled from a school.
We don't understand why you chase away the child when there is assessment policy that regulates what do you do with a child that has failed twice. There is a policy that regulates that. So we are appealing to all our principals to go back to the policy. But if there are individual cases that need to be brought to our attention, we'll appreciate to have that information so that we will work on that matter.
The affected parents of the learners are expected to hold a meeting on the way forward. Blonde Khatebe, SABC News, Pietermaritzburg.
Now, thousands of both primary and high school learners will return to school for the reopening of the 2024 academic year. Joining us now for more on the state of readiness is Elijah Mhlanga, spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. Elijah, good afternoon and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us.
No, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Before we get to the readiness, perhaps it's important that we tackle this particular story that we're covering now of the students from Pietermaritzburg who have now been barred from returning to schools because they failed twice. And we've just heard there from the MEC that there is a particular policy that regulates how you should deal with children that failed twice. Just talk us through the norm or the process that in fact should be followed by these school principals.
Well, I need to say first that the response from the department in KwaZulu-Natal is correct, that there is no policy that says a learner should be kicked out of a school because they failed twice. In fact, what schools should do is to monitor the progress of any learner that they have in their school and provide support to them. And that can also be done in partnership with the family of that particular learner or the caregivers of those learners. There's no place where we throw away children who are failing in the schooling system. So what's happening there is something that needs further investigation. I believe that the province is going to do that as soon as tomorrow when principals and teachers are back in school to prepare for the learners who are returning on Wednesday.
And then to the first day of school, I know that this time of the year is a year where there are jitters and tears for students, but there could also be jitters for educators as well. So how ready is the department to reopen the academic year, from your delivery of textbooks to resolving sanitation challenges that we covered last year, as well as the feeding scheme issues?
Yeah, no, all systems are in place. We have made the preparations from last year already when we were preparing for the forthcoming year, which is the one we are in right now. anticipating the number of learners based on the admission requests that we had received throughout the year. And provinces are ready. Even today into tomorrow, you are going to see a lot of media statements from provinces, each declaring its state of readiness. And in each statement, you are seeing that all of them are saying that they are ready to administer the school nutrition program, making sure that all the learners are able to get their meals, but also that teachers would have already prepared the schools starting tomorrow. The 2 days are critical for the preparation. All of those things are going to happen, and that the delivery of learner-teacher support material, that would have taken place already last year, September, October, before schools close. The deliveries have been made, but we know that there are always learners that come without prior notice that they are going to be enrolled in particular schools, which then necessitate additional material that would need to be delivered. That will be done. We usually set aside 10 days from the date of the opening of schools for such matters to be resolved. When it comes to admissions, we know as well that there are provinces such as Gauteng who are experiencing high volumes of learners who have expressed interest, and that is also being dealt with. So there was not much of a holiday in the education sector. You might not see it from outside, but if you're inside the sector, you would know that there's a lot of work that was done to assess the situation and prepare for the opening.
Now, it's quite comforting that you're saying there was hardly any holiday for the education department. But now that you're speaking on densely populated regions or provinces, when we look at Gauteng, it's almost certain that on the first day of school, not only are we covering the parents that are excited to have their children starting their first day, there's also a group of parents who'd be deeply aggrieved, heartbroken, because they're outside the school protesting, demanding placement for their children. Now, what would be the proper process that they should follow from as early as tomorrow, as opposed to perhaps going outside the school? Because sometimes we see that the teachers themselves don't know how to deal with these parents, and sometimes are even intimidated. What would be the correct process to ensure that the child is speedily placed?
Yeah, you are correct. If your child was looking for space, or if you were looking for a space for your child in grade 1 or grade 8, a school is the wrong place to go to tomorrow. You need to go to the district office if your matter was not resolved. However, if your matter was resolved, then there's no need for you to do that. You would have prepared the uniforms, you would have done all the work that needs to be done by a parent or caregiver ahead of school's opening. But if you still need to talk to the department, please go to the district office, because it is them who are going to assist you with that. However, if your child is in another grade and you had been communicating with the school would be the best place to go to. But they would have told you to go there. They would be expecting you. If they're not expecting you, please be patient when you get there. They've got many other cases to deal with. If you are waiting, it's not because they're not taking you seriously. It's because they're trying to resolve other people's issues as well. So there's going to be a lot of anxiety. You are quite correct. That's why we're appealing for patience, because it will be needed. Because we know caregivers, parents, they always feel that their children are being left behind with classes continuing while they're still in offices. But we take note of that. That's why we set aside the first 10 days to make sure that we resolve all these matters. We also plead for people's cooperation, because we have seen tempers flying high and violence also erupting in and around our schools, even at the district offices. So please, assist our officials so that they can assist you.
All right, so the best place remains the district office, not the school. Then to KZN, I mean, it's been hit by the floods in December, quite a lot of inclement weather there. And we heard the provincial department revealing that at least 60 schools were damaged by the December floods. And realistically speaking, the window period to repair these schools is too tight. What are the contingency plans there?
Yeah, it's a complex one in KZN because the rains never stopped throughout the festive season, and that created lots of challenges. And we know that the province and the districts had already awarded contracts to different companies to repair schools which were damaged last year already, which means that work is now multiplied, because one, they could not even proceed to fix those schools because of the persistent rains, and now they have to contend with the challenges of new schools that have been damaged. So it's very difficult. That's why sometimes we use mobile classrooms, which are very expensive, but we are left with no other option but to make sure that we use mobile classrooms as a temporary measure to ensure that learning does not get interrupted. So we are happy that the province is aware of this, and there have been discussions in December, even in the first part of January last week, with discussions happening in the sector about what it is that's going to be done to make sure that learning continues with the contingency measures that the province is going to put in place.
And then when looking at the broader basket of entitlements for students at public schools, what is the status of the program to ensure that there are libraries at each and every public school?
Well, that's an issue of infrastructure. You know, we have experience of some schools which have a classroom set aside for library. There are books in there, but it's not opened. So it's not all the schools that don't have. Some do have, but not in use. Those that have and not in use, they should start using that. I remember that when we launched the Read to Lead campaign, we went to various schools only to find that those classrooms were locked and not being utilized by the learners. But we have since made progress to conscientize our schools to open all the spaces that they have to use for reading purposes. We have also moved on to create different reading spaces, such as mobile libraries, which are taken from class to class, and where for safekeeping. So you don't necessarily need to have a physical library. You can have a mobile one, which you can push from one place to another to make sure that the learners have access to reading material.
But what were the reasons, apologies for interjecting there, just in the interest of time, what were the reasons furnished for not opening those libraries? Was it because there were no librarians to assist the children when they come in? Is there no period to go to library? What were some of the reasons given?
Well, some schools were not taking reading seriously. They were focusing on teaching and learning, which did not really make educational sense, because reading is a vehicle to learning.
Yes.
So it's important that learners are able to interact with the written word for them to be able to deepen their grasping of the concepts that they come across during lessons. We have since made progress. Last year we had a reading literacy summit, and we engaged provinces and districts and school principals were all told to make sure that they provide in the timetable a reading period. And that is taking place. So we've done a lot to try compel our schools to appreciate the value of reading in the school. Some were saying there's no time in the timetable, but we say there is time in the timetable. Make sure that reading takes place. So we are seeing schools developing spaces for reading and dedicating time to train librarians as well to make sure that it happens consistently.
All right. And then this week is also a big one for those who wrote their matric last year. Just talk us through that particular process around the release of matric results, as well as processes for those who want to query their marks, perhaps seeking remarking, and even that second chance program that we always hear of.
Yeah, in Mfunda, I'm in the office not because I've come to do this interview. It's because there's a lot of my colleagues who have been in the building, and we have been together here throughout the week, day and night. Even here now, we are here trying to finalize the results. Tomorrow, Umalusi will host a media briefing where they will make an announcement about the examination results. And thereafter, we proceed to finalize the printing of statements. On Thursday, the Minister will announce the pass rate for the nation and also unveil other detail in terms of the work that the class of 2023 has done, but also in terms of the interventions and other systemic changes that the sector has made. And thereafter, the provinces will also then give their results to their candidates. Of course, we say, please go to the place where you sat for exam in order for you to obtain your statement of results. Study it carefully. If you're not happy, do register immediately for the second chance exam, which is coming in May and June. So don't just cry and go home. Please talk to the teacher. That's why we say, please collect your statement at the school where you sat for the exam, because you will meet someone who will give you advice and say, register now, and then start studying, preparing for the exam, which you are going to write in May and June.
Elijah, thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it. We know it's the busiest time of the year for you and your department. That's Elijah Mhlanga, spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, speaking to us ahead of the reopening of schools this week. Now, the incomplete 30 million rand district offices of the Limpopo Education Department in Swenabarwana have become a white elephant. Construction started back in 2009 and the offices were meant to provide essential education services to the people of Swenabarwana and surrounding areas. Residents are accusing the Education Department of abandoning the project without an explanation. Matlatsi Paladi visited the site and compiled this report.
The multi-million rand project, neglected for over a decade, parts of the infrastructure have been vandalized by opportunistic criminals. The district offices were meant to provide administration services to residents of Swenabarwana and surrounding areas. They will then not have to travel over 100 kilometers to Polokwane to access services. Community members believe the funds meant for the project were squandered.
We are very much disturbed about the way in which the department, especially Public Works and the Department of Education, utilize the taxpayers' money. We think the department violated the so-called PFMA.
This building is affecting us negatively because we are expecting good things from it. It has been like this since 2009. Our children can't get jobs because of this building. If the building was operating, our children will be employed.
The school governing body federation says the incomplete project means learners have to travel far for services.
We are disturbed by the reports that the unfinished second office buildings in Capricorn district have been abandoned by the Department of Education. We are shocked to learn that this unfinished business negatively affects the quality of education in our province, because at the current moment in January, students are expected to flock into second offices and demand the registration of matric rewrites, remarkings and other services.
The Provincial Education Department says construction stalled after the contractor abandoned the site due to lack of capacity. It has promised, however, that the project will resume soon.
The contractor who was awarded the tender to build that second office wrote to the department that he does not have capacity to continue with the project, and as such we had to terminate him. And in the process of trying to get a new contractor to complete the project, you will know that the province and the department in particular was placed under administration, so we had to wait. But the good news is that upon the finalization of our own internal programs and the panel that we have to assist us with infrastructure, last year this very same project was evaluated, and I can confirm that we are just waiting for the appointment of a contractor, which is going to happen this January. We are expecting the contractor to be on site at least by the beginning of March so that they can finalize this project.
Community members want law enforcement agencies to investigate the alleged mismanagement of funds meant for the project. Matlatsi Paladin, SABC News, Swenabarwana.
Now, some political parties in Parliament are calling for the complete overhaul of the administration of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Now, this follows damning allegations contained in an audio recording by the organisation undoing tax abuse. This is against the fund's board chairperson, Ernest Khosa, and Higher Education Minister Blade Zimande. They are alleged to have received kickbacks from NSFAS service providers in return for tenders and protection. This has resulted in Khosa taking a leave of absence for 30 days, pending the outcome of the investigation.
Preparations for the 2024 higher education academic year have been rocked by a scandal at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. However, the NSFAS board says applications for financial assistance for this year have reached the 900,000 mark. Some MPs welcome Khosa's voluntary stepping down.
Whether this is a witch hunt against the minister depends on the outcome of the investigations. No one must call it a witch hunt. We also bear in mind that NSFAS has been under investigation by the SIU since 2022.
There are also those calling for Nzimande's head, adding that once the investigation is finalized, heads must roll.
We call on the Minister of Higher Education to follow suit and to take it a step further and to do the honourable thing and resign. It must be noted that NSFAS is responsible for handling more than 46 billion rand in student grants. The hard-pressed students of South Africa deserve better.
Others are calling for an overhaul of the system.
It's a very good idea to give poor and working class youth the opportunity to study, but the whole setup in terms of administration and the disbursement of the funds was a problem from the very beginning because the organization was overwhelmed by the huge numbers.
Chairperson of the Higher Education Committee, Nombendulo Mkhatshwa, declined to comment. Zimande has denied the allegations, while the NSFAS board said COSA's decision should not be interpreted as an admission of guilt. Lula Mamatya, SABC News, Parliament.
Returning students at TVET colleges are optimistic about a smoother academic year following last year's funding problems such as delayed diploma certificates and results. Taletso TVET College in Mahikeng in the northwest is prepared to welcome new students with an annual enrollment of nearly 10,000 learners doing more than 10 courses. Now, while some students had problems last year, others were forced to discontinue their studies due to insufficient funding.
South Africa has about 50 TVET colleges. According to the Department of Higher Education, more than 500,000 students enrolled at these colleges in 2021. This reflected an increase of more than 30% compared to 2020. One of the colleges is Taletso in Northwest, that one of its 3 campuses is in Mahikeng. Warabile Nkate is one of the students with funding challenges.
Last year, NSFAS funded me, but when I came here to school to come and check if I'll be able to find my money, there was problems. They said my money is reversed. I don't know how. While others are getting their allowance, why mine is reversed? I want to understand that part. Why mine? I came back and came. They tell me that they are still investigating my case.
NSFAS emphasized that it has processed all 2023 allowances.
NSFAS has paid all TVET college allowances for the 2023 academic year until the end of October, which is the last allowance of the year. The 2024 allowances will be dispersed in line with the funding guidelines and the disbursement schedule. NSFAS would also like to remind all students to ensure that they keep their banking accounts safe at all material times. In order to do so, students must always keep their username and password safe. They must always log out on their account. This will prevent fraudsters to access their credentials.
For other students, however, the previous academic year was smooth sailing.
I was doing hospitality level 2. This year I'm going to do level 3. And NSFAS is finding me. My experience is that I love cooking, and I will wish to cook for elder people that are poor.
8,000 students enrolled with the college last year. Prospective students who are in the queue now are hoping to be admitted.
I'll be applying for electrical engineering level 2 NCV. And my dream is to aspire to become an engineer student. I'm hoping to complete my course to inspire women also, because we all know that the electrical engineering field is mostly dominant by men.
I'm from Timbisa and I came here applying for PLP, so which is I'll be doing it for 1 year. Then the next year I'll be doing NCV.
Meanwhile, the South African Further Education and Training Students Association says colleges are ready to accommodate those who will be getting their matric results next week.
And as far as how it's looking, how it's coming together, and it's been moving very well. They've registered around about 30% of students who have registered and applied, so they've approved them. And then also it was the Department of Higher Education and Training, which was just telling us of the release of results, which they did perfectly on time, when we must applaud them for that. One that we are working out is how to incorporate the late release of matric results, as they are releasing them on the 19th of January.
Classes are expected to commence on Monday. Tabiso Mos, SABC News, Mahikeng.
Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, several roads in Durban have been flooded after heavy downpours in the city and coastal areas last night. Houses in the northern part of the city and on the north coast as far as Belicho were affected. Rescue and emergency services report that residents need to be evacuated from flooded homes in Verulam and surrounding areas. For more on this, we cross live now to SABC News reporter Jade Pulser. Good afternoon, Jade. What is the latest on your side? Because we understand that 2 residents were actually swept away.
Well, a very good afternoon to you and the viewers. Yes, we are coming to you from Otangati, and throughout the course of the morning, we've been going to the places that have been hardest hit, such as Relisha, where we saw 2 bodies being retrieved from a house that collapsed after torrential downpour happened last night. But here in Otangati, you can see on your screens absolute devastation, as many people have lost their belongings. Some are trying to salvage what they can. These houses on this particular stretch that are close to a river completely flooded, and 2 community members were washed away when trying to escape their house that was also flooded. But with me right now, I am joined by Ketelo Mtetwa. He's a friend of one of the residents that were washed away. Ketelo, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. If you can just talk to us about what transpired last night.
Yesterday, I went to buy something to chow. I left. Must I mention the name? Sbonel and Hammond. I left them by the house. I went to buy something to chow. I ended up delaying. I ended up watching soccer. I think it was around 9. My landlord phoned me. He was like, hey, come back. I think the floods are coming back now. Then maybe 15 minutes later, I came this side. And there were people outside, actually. There were people outside. And Sbonelo and Hammond, they were still inside the house. And people were shouting to tell them, hey, they must come out. After that, I think Sbonelo tried to escape using the window, because I think he lost the keys. By the time he was escaping, I think the water was too high. That's how they got washed away. Then I tried phoning him. By the time I was here, I tried phoning him. He didn't answer his phone. Luckily, I found the phone by the toilet. He stashed it somewhere, together with Hammond's phone. Then, that's what happened, actually. Then the rescue team, they came to check for the body. Still nothing. Yeah, that's what happened.
Okay, I can also see that you're also trying to salvage some of your belongings here, and we have spoken to Red Cross that have been here. K9 unit is also going to be making their way back here. I was told that they were here earlier on, but unfortunately the river was too high, so they couldn't do the rescue and search. Just talk to us about some of the belongings that you have lost.
I've lost everything, almost everything. As you can see there's my laptop, the TVs, PlayStations, all everything that I got, even the documents. You see the documents there? Nothing I have now.
Okay, Ketelo, just for the viewers back at home, if you can just explain, because I see there's several houses that have been hit. Did the water come from the top? I'm just trying to understand how this transpired.
It came from this side. Yeah. It's like, I think this dam goes straight to there by Palito. Yeah, it starts there. I don't even know the place, but yeah.
So the water actually rose and then came up towards the houses.
Yeah, and it was
jammed. Jammed many of the doors. Okay.
I think by the time we wanted to escape the house, water was too high. Didn't make it together with Hammond. Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking to us. I'm so sorry to hear this. And we were told that the rescue teams will be making their way back here. They were here, in fact, earlier this morning, but the river was quite high. Just navigating here is quite difficult. Otherwise, I would have asked Tulani Ngobo behind the camera just to show you the complete devastation, and community members are absolutely devastated. They have literally lost all their belongings, their IDs, as you heard Ketelo talking there about losing some of his personal belongings, and due to this river that runs close to the home. Now, we are told that 2 community members have been washed away. 2 other community members were also washed away by a river. We're going to try and confirm that with the IPSS. They have been releasing statements and reports throughout the course of the day. So we do know that it stands with 4 people now being washed away. 2 bodies were retrieved in Zwelisha. Umlondi Khadebe, my colleague, is on the ground, also making sure that he's close to the pulse of the story. He's been tracking Umhlanga as well as the north to bring you the latest with regards to the devastation that we are seeing. I'm just going to try and walk out of shot again and see if Tulani Ngobo and I can just navigate here and try and speak to more community members if possible. If you can just bear with us, viewers behind. Okay, I see there's a lady over here. Let's see if we can't try and speak to her. Many people are just grappling with what has happened last night. This is the second major flood since 2022. Last night, torrential downpour. We saw an hour-long rain hit eThekwini Metro, and I suppose many are... Let's see if we can't speak to this lady over here. Sorry, ma'am, you're live on SABC News. If we can just squeeze a word or two with you. You can't talk. Okay, no, saying that you can't talk. Many devastated here, trying to pick up the pieces, as you can see. Homes flooded. We'll try and bring you more information. I know the Red Cross is going to be making their way here. They did tell us that they will be coming to this disaster area to try and bring blankets and relief aid to those that need it the most here in Otangati. I think I'll leave it there and hand back to you in studio.
For that report, which most certainly looks very, very devastating there. That's our reporter, Jade Pulser, who gave us the very latest following those floods last night. And as she has stated, that there are 4 that are still unaccounted for. Now, still in KZN, but in Durban now, ratepayers say the matter of a billing error concerning free basic water to some 50,000 households is far from over. This is in response to the municipality, which said an agreement had been reached with ratepayers who in December received invoices of up to 8,000 rand. The city said it was a technical glitch and apologized to affected customers.
Jay Mangaru is a builder who's saved for years to buy property, which he is renting out. Mangaru claims that the eThekwini municipality's billing adjustment for the 6,000 litres of free basic water per month leaves him with 65,000 rand to pay. His municipal bills show 3 different sums for the same amount of free basic water over the 3 years, ranging from 3,800 to 6,000 rands.
In this case, I've got to take a loan or go to a loan shark or something just to please the municipality. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you know what happens. They're always there, ready to come and cut your water lights, sending you demanding letters to say that they'll prosecute us. So what can we do now?
The eThekwini ratepayers protest movement argues that there cannot be an agreement on a payment plan if issues regarding the free basic water are still to be resolved.
The manner in which they determine who's indigent, that hasn't been clarified as yet, because they maintain it's tied to a value of a property, where we find that to be totally absurd. There are many individuals who may be staying in a property with the value of 700,000 or 800,000, but the only source of income that they have is their pension money, and they have no other source of income. But the city will not recognize these individuals as indigent, and we said this policy needs to be revised.
The municipality insists that the matter has been addressed.
First of all, we are going to make it standard across the board. We are going to ring fence it, which means that there is no interest accrual on it. We are going to ring fence it for 36 months, which means that people will pay an average of about 180 additional per month. We have explained to them why it is difficult to do the write-off. completely as they were requesting because of the legislative constraints.
The municipality declined to comment further on the different amounts charged and what led to the billing error. Lund Khatev, SABC News, Durban.
To the Eastern Cape now, where residents of Parsons Vlei in Gqeberha say they've been waiting for 10 years for houses promised by the Nelson Mandela Metro municipality. They were given temporary structures back in 2014 after being evicted by a private developer.
Abandoned and forgotten, evicted from their land in 2014. This is where Jason Potgieter and many others were moved. A temporal structure not fit for human consumption. Potgieter survives by selling car parts, the proceedings of which he helps to support his neighbors.
Life is not good here at the moment, to be honest. I was staying there in Kabika Lambrugskamp, and I was having a huge place there, so I'm not used to this small place. And I was working there, making wood, the same thing that I do here now. So, I don't say it's good here, there's no electricity, there's no water in the house. So it's not good to stay like this in a constitutional country. It's not good.
An 82-year-old Mary Smith has been waiting for a house since the 80s. She spent all of her life in Parsons Vlei, but was then forcibly removed in 2014 with the promise of a better house. To date, nothing. This little house is now her home. There is no electricity and water, but only one toilet that she shares with other 5 residents.
I have given up on ever being given a house. I will die and I will have never owned a house. My only hope is that my children will one day get to own a house. We used to live in such a lovely area. We had everything that we need. We were safe, and all of that was taken away from us. Living here is just not nice. Nothing about living here is good.
There is one communal tap for all the residents and one mobile toilet for every 5 households. Waste lies scattered next to the houses. The residents believe this is a health hazard to many children roaming around here.
Where we used to stay was so much better. We struggled for nothing and had fast access to shops. Here, the shops are so far, and when you go to the shops, you get robbed. I don't have any electricity in my house, no water, and we live in constant fear of being killed by the gangsters.
The municipality says the process to obtain the land for the purpose of establishing a housing settlement has already started.
As the land is owned by the Provincial Department of Human Settlements, the municipality will submit a formal application to the province for the transfer of the land to the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality for housing purposes.
On top of having no electricity in their homes, no water in their homes, only one communal tap, few ablution facilities, residents here are also facing issues of high youth unemployment, exposing young people here to high levels of crime, drug addiction, and also gangsterism. Their plea is for basic rights to be adhered to: water, clean sanitation, and better living for them. Lerato Fekisi, SABC News, Gqeberha.
Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, South Africa's legal team that represented this country at the International Court of Justice has returned home. Our reporter Kylie Kumalo was at the OR Tambo International Airport for their arrival.
We do have the spokesperson of the Department of Justice and Correctional Services. Well, actually, Justice Crispin, thank you so much indeed for your time. Quite a moment for South Africa, Crispin. Maybe just your fleeting reaction as the team has arrived?
Yeah, as you had seen, the team is really grateful for this moment. I mean, really humbled by this overwhelming presence of peace-loving South Africans. And as Tembeka Ngugaitobi, our senior counsel, stated, is that, most of the time when this work is done, it's not done for gratification, but it's done for a just cause. And to see this type of welcome is really something special.
And obviously, Crispin, we've seen so many countries supporting South Africa. Quite a very big debate now is raging. We're looking at those claims around the genocide, what's happening in Namibia, obviously with Germany and the history that's happened in that country. As South Africa, how optimistic are you about your case that you have presented?
We really thought that our case was unanswerable, right from Advocate Adela Hassan's presentation right up to Bline Nigroli's speech. We saw detailed forensic analysis of what's happening in the Gaza Strip, the type of genocidal intent echoed by state action from the Prime Minister right up to a foot soldier. And we believe that this has to be adjudicated by the International Court. And we believe that we've really put forward a solid case, a case which deserves an answer at the very least. And what we did say as well at The Hague is that we are encouraged that Israel presented themselves to the court to answer and to present a case. Whether that case will persuade the judges remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, the commitment to a rule-based society to ensure that international human rights law is not scoffed at but is enforced is something that we will continue to advocate for.
And just before I let you go, Crispin, obviously the ICJ is a very complex environment. In terms of the provisional measures that you've requested, when can we expect perhaps just in terms of their response, in terms of the deliberations?
Our legal team placed the case for urgency, so we really expect that the court will respond in a reasonable time. The situation in Gaza as we speak, the amount of people dying is escalating daily. And so we do believe that the court will act with the urgency that is required, but we can't put down a specified time frame.
All right, so thank you so much indeed. So, Griselda, that's Crispin from the Department of Justice in South Africa. So there's a very sense of relief that the team is really back home, but also really just incredible scenes here at the OR Tambo. As you can see that there are so many people here really just hoisting the Palestinian flags, but really just talking about this particular conflict, but also pointing to a number of concerns around the atrocities that the people of Gaza have been subjected to. But really just a very incredible moment for South Africa as the legal team that represented the country has finally landed here in South Africa, and they just spoke to the media, really just expressing, but also very steadfast about the case that they've presented. Just going to come to you. You're here. Tell us about your presence. Why are you here today?
I'm here because I'm proud to be a South African, firstly. And secondly, we are so proud of our team that represented us at The Hague. We need to stand against oppression, irrespective of where it is. And we need to talk out about the atrocities that Israel has committed against the innocent Palestinian civilians. So we're here to say thank you to South Africa. And we're here to also say thank you to our team that represented South Africa at The Hague. And we're just happy that they're back, and whatever the outcome is, we will know that South Africa did not keep quiet against oppression. They did not keep quiet against the fascist apartheid regime of Israel.
All right, thank you so much indeed for that. So I see, ma'am, you're hoisting this flag, the Palestinian flag. Tell me how you're feeling right now.
I am a proud South African. I am proud to stand for Palestine. I am proud to be a South African, where our team has gone out and showed that we as South Africans should stand with justice, should stand with freedom. And the Palestinian flag is just one symbol of resistance. It comes in many forms, such as the watermelon. But this Palestinian flag shows that we stand for justice and we stand for freedom.
All right, thank you so much indeed for your time. And what about you, ma'am? I see you guys, you have been so patient and waiting, and the team is finally back here in South Africa. Are you optimistic that ICJ may rule in their favor?
I am optimistic. I think we have to be as patient as we've been. Palestinians have been patient for 76 years now. So our angst, I can only imagine what Palestinians are feeling. I am optimistic. I think I have to be. But the world honestly has spoken. And it's clear that what's happening in Israel has to stop. And we need a democratic state there. And South Africa, I think, is a really good place to make that case. Our legal team did a fantastic job of doing that. And us as ordinary citizens will continue doing that until Palestine's free.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much indeed. So, Griselda, these are the views that you're getting here from OR Tambo International Airport. Quite a number of South Africans are really proud of the country's position, what has been presented before the ICJ. So a lot of them really cautiously optimistic. As you know, that with the International Court of Justice, really, the rulings tend to take time, like we just heard from the Department of Justice, saying that this is a very interesting matter. But also, what has really just been very fascinating with this case, Griselda, is really just the reactions from the globe, really, of so many countries who have been really supportive of South Africa, the likes of Namibia, for example, where they also spoke about their very own experiences. You know, you look at the genocide that happened in the early 1900s, but also with the former colonial power, Germany, really coming under siege. And we do know of a very history that is very turbulent. With that, back to you in studio.
Now, Uganda is set to destroy over 5 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines following a slump in demand for the jabs. The East African country used a loan from the World Bank to import the vaccines. Leon Sienga reports.
An audit report has revealed that COVID vaccines valued at $7.3 million will be withdrawn from health facilities and subsequently destroyed. The report shows that over 5.6 million doses have expired and more are due to expire next year. Despite extensive public awareness and vaccination campaigns, health officials say there has been low uptake of the COVID-19 vaccines. According to the health officials, 59% of eligible Ugandans were vaccinated against COVID-19, which claimed over 3,600 lives in the country. However, more concerns have arisen as HIV antiretroviral drugs worth $8.6 million have also expired due to changes in recommended treatment guidelines by the World Health Organization. Leon Senyange, SABC News, Kampala, Uganda.
And that's where we leave it for today. We're back tomorrow. Enjoy your afternoon further.